Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sangam, and I'm faculty in Water Engineering and Management program of AIT. Today, we have an honor to have Professor Kuniyoshi Takeuchi, who is delivering his seminar on integrated flood risk management, basic concepts and the Japanese experience. So let me take this opportunity to briefly introduce Professor Kuniyoshi Takeuchi. Actually, he doesn't need any introduction in the field of water resources and disaster risk management. However, please allow me to introduce him very briefly. Professor Kuniyoshi Takeuchi is a Professor Emeritus of University of Yamanashi, Kofu, Japan, where he taught hydrology and water resources for 30 years till 2007. And I'm also fortunate that I was his student during his professorship in University of Yamanashi. So I still recall many good experiences and projects and a lot of activities in University of Yamanashi. He served as the founding director and later an advisor of International Center for Water Hazard and Risk Management, which is popularly known as ICHAM, under the auspices of UNESCO, Tsukuba, Japan. He got his Bachelor of Science and Master of Science and later Doctor of Engineering in Civil Engineering at University of Tokyo and Ph.D. in City and Regional Planning at University of North Carolina in the USA. He has been specialized in surface hydrology, water resources systems, and disaster management. He served for various professional offices, including the chairperson of Inter-Governmental Council of UNESCO-ISSC for 1998 to 2000, the president of IAHS for 2001 to 2005, and the chair of IUGG Commission of Geophysical Risk and Sustainability for 2007 to 2015, a vice chair of Scientific Committee of ISSU-ISSC-UNISDR Integrated Research on Disaster Risk for 2009 to 2015. He's a recipient of several professional awards, including IAHS-UNESCO-WMO International Hydrology Prize in 2012. So with this brief introduction, I would like to invite Professor Takeuchi to introduce his book on integrated flood risk management, basic concepts and Japanese experience. And also, I would like to inform you that we have at least 30 students inside our classroom here at AIT. Thank you, Professor Takeuchi. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Sangam. This is really my honor to speak to the people at AIT and other places. Well, I went to AIT for the first time 1975. 1975. Many of the students haven't maybe been born yet. Today, I'm very happy to introduce my book about the integrated flood risk management. And I hope I can explain this well. Well, I'd like to share the before starting this, I'd like to introduce my university, Yamanashi. Yamanashi is located in the center of Japan, and this is since 1949, and well, I think and we have among our graduates, there is a Nobel Prize winner also. And also I was, as Sangam introduced me, I was at ICHAM after my retirement of University of Yamanashi. And this was under the auspices of UNESCO, hosted by PWRI and Tsukuba. Well, this is the institute working for together for UNESCO, and we have the education program and the research program. And the research and the education are two fields of our vehicle, and information networking is our navigation. And our the ICHAM car vehicle is towards local practices, and we do help the local people to do the flood-related disaster management. Okay, this is my book. Just we are going to be published 10 October, a few days, a week from now. And I'm very happy to introduce this book to you. Well, this book has 6 chapters, starting from, well, forwards by Shabazz Khan, who is the director of UNESCO Beijing Cluster Office, because I'm engaged in UNESCO matters quite much. That is why we have his forwards. And also ICHAM is under UNESCO. And preface and the prologue. And I have epilogue too. And the prologue is about UNESCO and Japan. And the chapter 1 introduction highlights there is no such thing as a natural disaster. And the chapter 2, occurrence of disaster, that highlight risk. Disaster risk is a combination of hazard and vulnerability. This is very important. And the so-called pressure and release model, PAR model, is introduced. Then chapter 3 about the conceptual evolution of UN policies on environmental development and disaster reduction. And this is really important because the world is now quite much led by the international trend, and the UN policies are quite important. And I work for, or I will present to Stockholm to Rio and Yokohama to Sendai. Then the chapter 4 is the integrated approach to water resources and flood risk, where I introduce the international views or international understanding of those concepts. And then Japanese experience. As you see, this is a number of pages. So very big pages. About a half of this book is about the Japanese experiences. And this is starts from nature and the history and the current integrated flood risk management. And future issues, I touch upon climate and the population. And as a solution, I talk about compact city and transdisciplinary approach. And finally, in epilogue, I introduce NINOMIYA Kinjiro Sontoku and his policy, Hotoku Shiho, which is, he was the disaster management saint, well, disaster recovery saint in Japan. Well, prologue. The reason why I got engaged in UNESCO was because of this charter, since wars begins in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. This is very important thing, and this attracted me to come into UNESCO activity. The chapter 1 introduction. I have not only this no such thing as a natural disaster, but from disaster relief to disaster risk management, global sustainability, human well-being, and biodiversity. This is actually the objective of all activities, human well-being and biodiversity. Well, there is no such thing as a natural disaster. You may have heard about the floods are acts of God, but the flood losses are largely acts of men by Gilbert White. But this kind of idea started from Lisbon earthquake, well, started in Western, culture. The Lisbon earthquake in 1755, and French, the philosopher Voltaire and the Rousseau, the Jean-Jacques Rousseau, their communication made this idea first. The Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, nature didn't construct the sounds of thousands of houses and multi-story that collapsed. In other words, the Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, God is something wrong. But Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, it's not a matter of God, it's human. So this story will I introduced in my book. In chapter 2, I talk about what is disaster risk, and the PAR model I mentioned, and the access model, and the disaster management cycle, and the hydrological cycle. You may be interested in this. Well, I have not much time, so I introduce just pressure model. Pressure and release model is about this is about disaster risk. It's a combination of hazard times vulnerability. When hazard meets with societal vulnerability, a disaster occurs. I'm sorry. But the vulnerability in this book, it is Ben Wisner's and Piers Blakey's the book At Risk. They consider vulnerability is not just unsafe conditions in front, but there is a root causes. And between root causes and unsafe conditions, there is dynamic pressure to translate root causes into unsafe condition. This has been discussed in the book. Chapter 3, evolution of UN policy on environmental development, disaster reduction. As I said, it is important to review the conceptual and policy evolution from Stockholm to Rio, and from Yokohama to Sendai on the disaster reduction. Well, Stockholm Human Environment Declaration was in 1972, and this this is the declaration said the protection and the improvement of the human environment is a major issue which affects the well-being of peoples and economic development throughout the world. It is the urgent desire of the peoples of the whole world and the duty of all government. And it was very fine, and it was accepted by the many countries in the world. However, this statement was more like for advanced countries, and the developing countries needs to development first rather than environment. And this conflict led to this sustainable development idea by World Commission on Education and Development, 1987. And you may know it is quite important, well, famous definition of sustainable development, which is humanity had the ability to make development sustainable, to ensure that it meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Well, this is quite quite influential, the basic policy of UN activities, and they put on this Agenda 21, 1992 at Rio, and about the disaster, promoting sustainable human settlement was the most important one. Well, that led to our recent the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, where we had MDGs, Millennium Development Goals first, but no, this is the kind of story. And then we have 𝐏𝐤𝐤 framework for action, and the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction recently. And the important the statement of 𝐏𝐤𝐤 framework for action is ensure that the disaster risk reduction is a national and a local priority, see, with a strong institutional basis for implementation. All the countries agreed on this the priority, the national and the local priority. We should put priority on this. And we have reached the 2015, this is a Sendai framework, and the Sendai framework is not a kind of revision of 𝐏𝐤𝐤 framework, but this is a strengthening of the 𝐏𝐤𝐤 framework, the understanding is a science and the governance, you know, investing in the economy, and resilience came in, and building back better. This is very important. Building back better was not in this 𝐏𝐤𝐤 framework, and building back better came into the Sendai framework. Okay, chapter 4. Well, I like to have your questions, so I should be very fast. The integrated approach. Well, integrated approach is for water resources and disaster risk. Well, integration is nowadays is considered as a kind of the conclusive, the most important method to proceed the interdisciplinary the problems. So, and this one, integrated water resources management and integrated flood risk management, and we have UNESCO guidelines and the UNESCO European Flood Directive and WMO efforts of integrated flood management. They are kind of examples. First, I consider integrated flood risk management is in the center of the a part of integrated water resources management and integrated disaster risk management, and they all contribute to sustainable development. See, and this relation is quite important. So, in other words, integrated flood risk management is part of integrated water resource management and integrated disaster risk management. We shouldn't make this this is separate. Well, what to integrate? Of course, integrated water resources management, hydrological cycle, water users, and socio-economic structures. Then, what is integrated disaster risk management? We should integrate multi-hazard and all the natural characteristics, time, space, probability. And also we have users, stakeholders, and the management cycle. Well, they are more like processes of disaster risk management, preparedness, emergency response, recovery, and mitigation. Well, how to integrate? You may know systems analysis approach and the transdisciplinary approach. Well, as an example, there is old but very important the initiation made by Harvard Water Program more than half century ago, but they produced a book, Design of Water Resource Systems. It is considered as a Bible of water resources. So this is very briefly introduced. And the integrated flood risk management, it is necessary to have efficiency and fairness, efficiency or resiliency and fairness. And as an example, separable cost alternative justifiable expenditure method is explained. And mathematical programs and simulation, this is not touched upon. This just the few lines. And about transdisciplinary approach, I introduced ASEC TC21 activity. Well, EU flood directive, this is very interesting and important exercise, which is part of EU Water Framework Directive started 2000. And the most important mechanism of integration of this initiative is 6 years, every 6 years it should be periodical repetition of assessment, risk maps, and management plan. This is quite an interesting approach, and this has been explained in the book. And the UNESCO guideline, IWRM, is about this spiral process, because each society has different development levels. Therefore, IWRM phase should also be upgraded step by step. And in those, the stepping up, there should be some occasions. And those occasions, step-up occasions are most often, it is a disaster. So disaster is an opportunity window. It is very important to see this opportunity window, to use opportunity window. Well, chapter 5, Japanese experience. I have start from the general hydro environmental conditions. This is nature, and then the history. Then the history includes this Shingen Bank, which is in Yamanashi River of Fuji River in my place. And I like to say all of my students at ICHAM or the Malaysian, the University Technology Malaysian student come to my place and see the historical, the Shingen Bank. And I like to, this has been also quite explained. And then the history says Japanese, the flood losses. And in 1959, more than 5,000 people died in Nagoya area by storm surge. And this is considered, this 1945 to 1959 is considered a dark post-war 15 years. And this is influenced by the defeat in the war. In other words, war made the dark post-war of 15 years. But it is important to say, after that, the Japanese, the death tolls declined and declined. But those red one means the economic losses. And the human losses may decline, but not economic losses. This has been also explained. And second part of Japanese experience is about the current flood risk management. And the current flood risk management is comprehensive flood control measures and disaster protection and mitigation responding to the new stage. And I'd like you to know the 1977, this is actually the sponge city idea. Sponge city idea is a new one, but it is much before Japan started. And this is one of the sponge city idea for residents with infiltration facilities. It is already 1980s in the urban development corporation, public corporation. And we have the storage, even the playground is used for storage. And of course, we have such as the underground rivers and super levees, and they all are quite much explained. And now we have hazard maps. And I like to say this hazard map is available all over Japan in 2000, 1/2000, which is 20 meter in 10 millimeter. So that is why we can see even my house in this map. And this is for 1,000-year return period. And this is for flood or landslide or storm surges, tsunamis, as such. And this is warning for evacuation now exercise. We have warning level 5. Warning level 1, mental preparation, and the physical check for evacuation. Number 3, elderly starts and other vulnerable people starts evacuation, and others prepare evacuation. And number stage 4, it is evacuation, all people. And number 5, it is the disaster has already occurred and the people shouldn't move now. It's too late to evacuate. This is the what now exercised in Japan. And the final part of Japanese experience was experienced on tsunami. And we have L1 and L2 approach and some culture for tsunami. And L1 and L2 approach, it's L1 tsunami is considered about 100-year return period. For that, every tsunami should be protected by physical facilities. And about 1,000-year flood, that is L2 tsunami. This should be protected only human lives and the national economy. So people has to move from here to somewhere up. That is why the Japanese, the recovery of the Tohoku tsunami was quite late. And even now, it is the people are working on. And this is Tsunami Memorial Stone in Miyako. And this says, never build houses below this stone. And this Aneyoshi village was struck by a tsunami 1896 and 1933 twice, and only the survived were 2 and 4 people. That is why this stone was put on the quite high place, about 60 meters high place. And they say, never build houses below this stone. This kind of thing, and together with the Inamura no Hi are introduced. And the chapter 6 is, well, I like to have. Chapter 6 is future issues. Future issues, I touched upon climate change and demographic issues. And for demographic issues, I put the compact city as a solution. And also for the future, we need social capital. And social capital for Ise Shrine, the Shikinen Sengu, 20 years the rebuilding for 800 years. 20 years rebuilding has been continuing. So this was introduced. And transdisciplinary approach by, I said, ASEC TC21, and some case studies, Japan, Philippines, Nepal, and the preliminary findings are mentioned. Well, compact city, you know, the city with sprawled urban district is very inefficient and very bad for disaster management and the environmental condition and the economy too. So put it into compact city. Then this is good, very efficient for disaster management, energy supply, natural environment protection, and transportation, livelihood, urban economy, and also welfare. You know, in the aging society, we do need the hospital, you know, the aging society, they need, and the depopulation needs those places. And this, the compact city is very good. Well, the other thing is, in order for the preparedness and response, we do need community activity. And this kind of thing shouldn't be only by disaster training, but it should be by you know, festivals, and this is the Jingu Shrine. I said, I'm sorry, I cannot explain, but 20 years, every 20 years, rebuilding of the shrine. And then the people has to work together like this, see, like this. And 20 years, the 800 years, it is continuing. That is why, for instance, this wood should be kept in the forest. If there is no forest, then they cannot rebuild. And not only just a building, but also some decoration too, using feather of a bird. And if that bird, well, that is a special bird called the toki, if toki disappears, then we cannot remake it. So this kind of rebuilding every 20 years continuously is very, very important sustainability the exercise. Well, this is TC21 transdisciplinary approach, means academia, civil society, public sector, and private sector, all together, we work through scientific knowledge-based decision-making to disaster management. And not only co-design and co-produce, but also co-deliver and co-implement. So even students nowadays are requested to come into the implementation, the interest. Okay, epilogue is NINOMIYA Kinjiro Sontoku. Well, he is, as I said, a disaster recovery saint using moral power. Moral power. See, he lived the 1787 to 1856. We had quite much of the famines and the great eruption of the volcanic eruption, and that he made 600 villages suffering from aftermath of famines and other disasters. Well, and his method is act sincerely to others, work hard to repay for the virtue of others. You know, the repay for the virtue of others. We live because of parents and the ancestors, and we have to return that virtue. That is our work, and keep living standard within your income, and invest residuals for the future of others. Invest residuals for the future of others, and accumulate little efforts to a great, and all players fused into one. See, all players fused into one. This is transdisciplinary approach. Okay, and all of this is a moral. Is not only just a discipline, but moral is real power. It is an economic power and also any kind of basis of the development. And this is as a whole is considered as a human environment empowerment. Well, at ICHAM we have so-called Sontoku Award, which gives the certificate and also this the statute, miniature statute of Sontoku. Well, this is the last slide. I always give you give at the end of my lecture, which is the 2,500 years old Confucius saying, "Be aware of risk while we are safe. Awareness leads us preparedness, and preparedness leaves us no regret." And the most important statement I like to leave you is human empowerment is the only sure way for sustainable development. This is repeatedly mentioned in my book. Okay, the final one is this 20% discount available on this book. It is too expensive, actually, really expensive. But unfortunately, there are no paperbacks now. So I really appreciate if professors have a fund, then you prepare some of those the books in the shelf. Okay, thank you very much. That is my my lecture, and I hope you have some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Takeuchi. Thank you very much. And you know that you have brought, lifelong experience of this flood risk management in the book. And once again, congratulations. I have already, placed order 1 week ago. Once you had sent me email, I hope I will be getting that book next week. And I'll try to keep one book in the library and also, provide to my students here.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes for Q&A session, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions to Professor Takeuchi. So I would like to request to raise your hands and unmute your microphone. If possible, please switch on your video camera and you can direct your questions to Professor Takeuchi. I see one hand, I think from our student in our classroom. Okay, Thomas. You can briefly introduce yourself, right, and ask questions.
Sensei, my name is Thomas, and I'm a PhD student here at IIT. I have a couple of questions, but before I ask you my questions, I would like to say thank you for your very interesting introduction. And I spent a couple of years in the US, and I was actually a Hurricane Harvey survivor. It hit directly my city in the US.
Oh, really? Mm.
Yes. So my question to you is, the experience you share and the projects that you introduced were mostly related to the
flood-related disasters.
sorry,
Including
yeah, mostly related to the developing countries. However, for a country like the US, they have a lot of money. However, every single time there was a hurricane hit directly to the mainland of the US, the economic loss and the human life loss are still significantly high every single time. So what kind of lessons should they learn from the Japanese experience in order to minimize their losses and improve their hazards protections and integrations, risk management?
Well, I think my book won't be only to the European countries, but includes the advanced countries. The hazard maps, I think this is really advanced in Japan, and also forecasting, and also compact city idea. In the United States, it is sprawled. The people are living the very spread. Well, but so it makes very, very expensive to make some area safe. But for instance, in that I said L1 and L2 approach, and Japan is now coming into L2 approach. 1,000 the return period space, and well, people are moving into the higher place and lower place for different purposes. Well, I think the depopulation or the increasing population, the same. The compact city is supported by OECD. They suggest all countries to do this. Well, anything else?
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Yeah, good, good. Well, Sangam, I don't hear. I don't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I see one hand. Anil, Dr. Anil, yeah, please.
Hello, Sensei.
Yeah, Dr. Anil, we can
Hello.
hear you. Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Sensei, and thank you for writing book for us. Actually, that was really impressive. My question is, you talked about how to integrate IWRM, IFRM, and IFM. And do you have an idea when to integrate? Can you explain when can, like before 2000, we didn't talk about IWRM. after 2000, we talked about IWRM and IFM and IRBM. Based on your experience, can you explain when to integrate these terms?
Well, the integration is very, very important, difficult, and there is no kind of standard yet. Well, of course, a mathematical approach, there are quite a few integration efforts. However, mathematical approach is only in a kind of focused area, well, selected components. But in reality, integration should take care of everything. You know, as I said, nature, users, and social system. And they all, that is why transdisciplinary approach is so important. And transdisciplinary approach, we are promoting is the sectors. You know, sector has academic sector, public sector, the private sector, and social, well, civic society or community. They all should work together, and then it is a chaos if everybody speak. So there should be some rule. And what is their rule? That is responsibility and kind of mandate they committed or they accepted. See, that sort of thing has been discussed. And where we are still looking into various case study area. No, well, some Japanese case study that is the kind of committee. Whenever government faces some difficult problem which needs societal transformation as such, then we organize a transdisciplinary committee where the scientists and the public sector or private sector and the civic society get together and work together. And of course, this should be the multiple disciplines, natural science and social science and art, they should work together. Well, this is a new area to explore. So I cannot say there is a fixed integration approach now. And the governance is very important. You know, the governance in many countries, especially developing countries, are suffering from governance issue. Well, that is everybody knows. Well, thank you for your question. You may like to ask something else.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Takeuchi. I think there is one question from chat box. This is from Dr. Dinesh Vuzu from NAST. So the question is disaster preparedness a human awareness or technological approach? I'm reading question from Dr. Vuzu.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you very much. The disaster preparedness is very important. I don't say this is just human awareness or technical issue. Well, no, they combined. You know, I said preparedness is very important to check the infrastructure or the early warning. That is technical. Well, like starting from observation, you know, but all those the technical thing or the infrastructure type of thing. It's supported by people. People are using those infrastructure. So how to work those people, not only just awareness, but also working together. It's most important for, most important for preparedness. And that is why I said social capital, social capital, human relation is a power. And I said the Sontoku is a saint of moral power. Moral is not just a discipline. This is a power to make development and economic efficiency possible. Without this, if we cannot trust each other, then we cannot do anything. See? Thank you very much for your question about disaster preparedness. Preparedness is not just technical or human awareness, but everything. Yeah,
thank you, Professor Takeuchi. Are there any questions from the participants inside the classroom, online participants?
Since can I ask one question?
Okay, yeah, Dr. Anil, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Since one thing about, based on your so many years of experience in both academia and companies, what are your suggestions for co-implement actually for the academicians, either restructuring the coursework or something like that, mainly in terms of co-implementation?
Yeah. This is very, very difficult the question too. Even you are a student and you like to have a paper published in science or good journal that makes your life possible. However, you should have a contact or some contact with real world, and you have to do something, not just watching at or suggesting, but you do something. Well, in balance with your own, professional life. I think this is very important in that transdisciplinary approach it makes possible. And this is not just only your problem, but also the professor's problem too. Professor has to accept, evaluate, value your activity in the implementation. And this should be in the journal too. Implementation or case study should be highly accepted in journal. So it is more like I'm saying this. We do need that sort of knowledge transfer. Some kind of infrastructure for this. I slipped away some keyword. Knowledge. We have to make sure the knowledge flow reaches from the source to the implementation place, and the knowledge flow infrastructure is necessary. And this infrastructure includes publication or the assessment of the quality of your student activity as such. Well, thank you very much for your question.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Takeuchi. So, are there any other questions from the classroom, inside the classroom here? Okay, Sensei, maybe I have one question. Probably it's not polite to ask, but I'm just wondering, especially in developed countries, there are a lot of, advancement in technologies such as, the rainfall forecasting, flood forecasting, and also a lot of the infrastructure in place to reduce the risk of flooding. But still, many of the developed countries, they are facing this flooding problem and also severe economic loss and damages. Okay, can you tell what are the major reasons of failure of this flood risk management in developed countries?
Well, Sangam, thank you for your question. But please think about for instance, the number of people who die. It is declining and declining. And sometimes, it reaches 200 or something. But that sort of 200 people died in 2018 or 2019 in Japan. If it happened 50 years ago, it should be thousands or the tens of thousands of people. That is why, the number of death toll can be reduced, but economic losses do not. And we have to face that economic losses doesn't change much. This is because vulnerability is increasing. Not we are failing, in the management, but vulnerability increases. So even a small the damage makes a very large the impact. So the complexity of the society, including interdependencies or the value network, that makes the economic losses by disaster increasing and increasing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Professor Takeuchi. I think it's already 2 o'clock here, so it's time to close this seminar. And yeah, thank you very much, Professor Takeuchi. We were very fortunate to have this first seminar after your release of this book, Integrated Flood Risk Management.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Once again, congratulations. And this is very, very timely publication. And I hope this will be very useful for not only the policymaker, practitioners, but also for the students and academic institutes like us. Yeah, thank you very much. And I thank all the participants joining from several places. And please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sangam. This was a very nice opportunity for me to explain the book. And if, if situation allows, maybe I'd like to visit once again AIT and talk about this book.
Yeah, sure.
That maybe in some cases. Well, thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you very much. We look forward to meeting with you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And those students attending this seminar, so I would like to request you to switch to another, usual Zoom meeting ID and password. So I will continue my lecture in another Zoom ID. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.